Thank you. My book is about the War on Terror, and it follows the lives of 3 Afghans in that war, a Taliban commander, a warlord, and a housewife. And so this excerpt is about the housewife, and it comes from 1991, when the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, was controlled by communists, and the surrounding countryside was controlled by Islamists. And very shortly after this excerpt, the communists would fall, and the civil war would descend upon the capital and kill tens of thousands. One day during her junior year, her family brought home a young man for tea. It had become a regular occurrence, for at 19 she was well into her marriageable years. Hila was to stay quietly in the adjacent room until called. Usually, she would be brought out to meet the visiting family, some words would be exchanged with the adults, and then modesty would call for her to retreat again. This time, though, as she was introduced, she saw that there were no relatives accompanying this visitor, no throng of curious aunts. There was only a tall, pale young man standing shyly in the corner. He had a sharp nose, prominent cheekbones, and, impossible to ignore, a disarming smile. Hila knew that it would be improper to inquire about him openly, but over the next few days she gleaned snippets here and there. His name was Muskinyar, and he'd come alone because his family was down south. He had been living by himself in Kabul, something she had never heard of before, and he had been working for the government. She also learned that he was a communist and a fervent defender of women's rights. Over the following weeks, Hila registered her approval in the way a good Afghan girl did, by saying nothing at all. During her daily walks to the university, she found her thoughts wandering to him. It was killing her not to know what the two sides were saying or discussing, or if they were talking at all. One afternoon, she had almost reached campus when suddenly Muskinyar appeared in her path. Oh my God, she thought. They stood staring at each other. She could see the scandal, the tears and screams at home, the accusations about a couple skirting their families and taking matters into their own hands. Before she could say anything, he broke into a wide grin and announced that he would like her hand in marriage. Not knowing what to do, she turned and hurried the other way. She fought the urge to look back. Some days later, he appeared again. This time, before she could flee, he blurted out that he wanted to get to know the woman that he might spend the rest of his life with. He meant no harm, he insisted, and no one would know that they had spoken. It was just for his peace of mind. She agreed to talk to him. He quickly slid into lengthy monologues about politics and religion and the war. He was distinctly modern, progressive even, in a way that she had never before seen in a man. He assured her that only the communists could save the country. The stories filtering in from the countryside were exaggerated. By the end of the walk, she finally plucked up the courage to ask if he would allow her to work. He shot her a wounded look, seeming insulted that she'd even asked. It was a woman's natural right, he said. Soon, he became a fixture on her daily walk. They spoke of Pashtun poetry and of overbearing relatives, of traveling the country after the war, and someday of visiting Central Europe, where Kabul's electric trolley buses were built. They would go to Germany, he promised, after peace arrived. They'd ride the trains, even the ones that ran underground. In 1991, they were wed. Shortly after, they moved into the small Soviet-built apartments near downtown Kabul. Muskinyar was making good money working for the Ministry of Health, and Hila, upon receiving her diploma, found a job as a teacher. In her spare time, she took courses in nursing and midwifery, which led her to a moonlighting guild with the World Health Organization. It wasn't long before she gave birth to a baby boy. Life was good. Infused with tiny, daily acts of hope, their imagination told of a future that belonged entirely to them. But beyond the city limits, in the rust-hued mountains girding Kabul, that future was being unwritten. Thank you.